When you have to shoot, don't talk.
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us for episode 21 of the Trap House Podcast. My name's Justin Jett. Today, we have a good friend of ours that's been coming in to Hoosier Trapper for a long time. Rusty Fields here in Indiana. He's a nuisance trapper and a fur trapper. Been at it for a long time. Extremely nice guy. It's Rusty's Animal Control is the name of his business there. But we'll jump in with him here soon. Got to give it up to the sponsors, of course. J3O for J3 Outdoors. Check out j3o.com. Maker of the Hags bracket, the spring clip, the tail hook, the multi-purpose lock. I will mention on one of the Hoosier Trapper Outdoors, Charlie does a little demo and demonstration how to use that lock. I think that comes out the 14th, February 14th. Yeah, so if you want to see kind of visually how that works, check it out. We're doing a little muskrat trapping on that episode. And also got to give it up for Hoosier Trapper Supply, of course. We got a nice website, easy to navigate, find everything you need. Everything you need for, trapping purposes is on there. Or you can always give us a call and place an order. No big deal. What else do I want to say before we hop in here? Definitely join Fur Takers of America, National Trappers Association, the Sportsman's Alliance. We're going to give all the support we can to those guys to keep us out there in the field and keeping trapping alive. So give it up to them. If you're not a member, you might consider it. Hop online and find them. And join our Facebook group called the Catch Circle. It's all-purpose, all anything and everything trapping. It's good to go. So it's a good group of people. I think that covers everything. Let's get to the episode. All right, episode 21. We're here with Rusty Fields, owner and operator of Rusty Animal Control, right? Rack.
Yes, sir.
Everyone likes racks, right?
Yes, sir.
How'd you come up with that name?
We were trying to come up with something that people could remember.
Makes sense.
Yes, but I also wanted it to be very personal, so that way whenever you call, you're actually talking to a local owner, little guys, instead of calling like a Allied or some other name to where you don't know, Terminex or whoever, you don't know who you're talking to.
They know they're talking to Rusty.
That's right, little local guys.
Do they always get to talk to you?
Yes, if you call, you do get to talk to me.
Okay.
Good deal. So, we like to do a little bio. That's kind of how we start all these. So if you want to kind of give us the rundown on how you got started in trapping, not just in nuisance, but you're also a fur trapper. And, I'll let you take it.
Well, a lot of it, I'm like most of them in here, where you guys started way back when as fur trappers. And I was born in 1970, so in 81 is when I really started with the fur trapping. That was the first year that I remember being able to have my own trap line, and we had a ball. Absolutely loved it. I fell in love with it that year. So we continued even when the trapping was bad. We were still out trapping when the fur wasn't worth anything. We still do it to this day a lot to enjoy it. So that's why I tried to find something where I could use something that I really enjoy to make a living at. It was pretty tough at the beginning just to get the name out there and to make sure everyone understands that you're on the up and up and you have all your proper permitting and insurance and all that. It's quite a pain, but it's really worked out well now. I mean, I enjoy going to work 3 days out of 4. There aren't many people who can say that, but I do enjoy it.
What about that fourth day?
Well, the fourth day, every job is a job sometimes. Just a job.
Yeah.
We have those.
Doesn't matter what you're doing. There's still something.
That's
right,
true.
Charlie?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say that because I'm in the presence of my boss. Some days are just not as great.
You have pretty much made me aware of it.
I know.
On days when you feel like that. So
we're close enough now. I can tell you, man, today sucks. I'm going home.
Yeah.
And it really doesn't matter what you do. You're going to have those days. Yep. You are going to have them.
So, getting started, were you primarily water or land or
All water. Everything
Water
I
trapping?
did first was water because my father always told me whenever you set them on land, you're going to catch dogs and cats and skunks and possums and everything else.
So let's give a perspective, though, because your dad was a coon hunter.
Absolutely. Die-hard coon hunter. He didn't ever want to see a dog caught in a trap.
Yeah. So
Yes, he did. We were very much water trappers. But I will have to say this, in all my water trapping, I've never caught a possum or a skunk in the water. Never.
So he
They
wasn't
just don't do
lying.
it. Yeah. So he was pretty smart with that. But I do remember one time I was about 15 and it was the little ditch line that I always set by myself, and I thought, well, I'm gonna set this one up on the bank. There was one hole I just couldn't resist. And the very first day, a skunk. Pretty as you please. Sprayed all over everything. So it's kind of hard to hide that from him and say, no, I caught it in the water. No. Yeah. So he knew that that particular day I hadn't exactly listened to what he told. But I learned.
Yeah.
I did learn.
Yeah. So did anybody else in your family trap?
Yes.
Okay.
My father did, and then my elder brother did.
Okay. Was that just during the fur boom years then, primarily
Yes.
for those two?
Yes.
So you're the one that really has kept with it.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's such a challenge, and a lot of people don't realize, especially if you've never trapped, the challenge that it really is. Especially when you're in nuisance versus pleasure trapping, because pleasure trapping, as my father always put it, you wanted to, quote unquote, leave a little seed. You never wanted to catch everything out.
Right.
But a lot of times with nuisance, your job is to catch that last beaver or that last rat or whatever it is. You have to get them all out.
Right.
So it's a little different mindset. But it's a whole different game than it was then. You know, we're not catching them for the fur. We're catching them now because they have truly become a nuisance.
Right.
In a lot of areas.
Right. So, back when you were still fur trapping a kid, we still had quite a few muskrats then. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And then I'm sure you've noticed the decline. So does it bother you then when you kind of get a nuisance call for muskrats in ponds?
I try my very best to put spring nuisance calls off for muskrats, just because I can hear my father sitting on my shoulder telling me that whenever you catch it, you have to skin it and put it up. That's just the way he always was.
Yeah.
So I hate catching, especially muskrats early.
Yeah.
Because they're a species that they're a lot of fun to catch. They're great for kids or almost anyone to catch, and they're not bad to put up, and they're always going to be worth a little something, at least for your time and effort to go and doing it. And I really have always enjoyed muskrats, so I hate to see them go. But, man, there are so many retention ponds now that weren't here when we were kids. Right. And so you do have a little more area. So even though you don't have the numbers in certain areas, you still have more muskrats than you would think. When you start thinking about however many thousands of ponds you have now, then if each one of those only has a dozen rats, you've still got a pretty good rat population. It's just much more spread out than it was before.
Right.
Just because of number of acres.
Right. Although there's still got to be a reason that they're not in the farm ditches, which I know Jerry Ann, our biologist, is looking at, and along with some other biologists. But
I don't think that it's any one thing, to be quite honest. I think there's quite a combination of things, and I think it's anything from everyone wants to immediately say pesticides. But remember, the farmer, he has it figured down to the 16th of an acre as to exactly how much pesticide or herbicide that it's going to take him to cover that field. So it's normally not the farmers that are polluting the streams. If you have a guy on the edge of a golf course, he's going to put on too much. I guarantee you he is not going to figure it up to where he's going to put it on. But that farmer is spending thousands of dollars. He is going to figure it very minutely as to where he can come out exactly to what he needs, so he's not wasting money.
Right. Plus they have a certain amount of right of way they have to give to farm ditches and drainages and creeks and streams too. They can't just.
That is correct.
They can't just spray the creek or stream bank per se. So right. They. But I agree that it's probably a number of things. So.
Mm-hmm.
I think one that's
touched
overlooked is the predation of all of your raptors now, because if you think about how many times did you see the red-tailed hawks when you were kids? You just didn't hardly ever see them. And now there's one on every post.
Yeah.
And it's the same way with your horned owls. And I mean, nearly everything. There's a lot more raptors now, and they're very good at catching muskrats right off the top of the water.
Right.
All year long.
My only argument to some of that is that in the 70s and 80s, the pressure on muskrats through trapping was extreme. I mean, over the top. I mean,
everybody was
after them.
I agree.
You take a $7 bill for a skin in the 1970s. That's huge money.
Yes.
So everybody was after them, and it didn't matter if guys, a place where they didn't didn't allow trapping, there was probably somebody sneaking in there and trapping. That's how bad it was at those times. So my only argument is if they can survive that kind of extreme pressure, then it seems like they ought to be able to deal with raptors, because there's not that many trappers after them today like there once was. So, I think, like you said, I think it's just a combination of things, and it's probably fairly complicated to really figure this out.
I would say you're absolutely correct. But remember that those trappers were also big into conservation, because they didn't want to bother those rats in the spring or in the summer.
It was fall harvest,
Right.
fall and winter harvest.
Fall, winter only. So now that any of the raptors or any of that's year round. So remember, that old female, when she gives you 3 litters in a year, it doesn't take long for them to repopulate in an area.
Right.
But I agree with you. They're still not the numbers that there were then, and we don't know why.
Right. Yeah, there's no, so. And whether or not that'll ever have a definitive answer or not, who knows, Muskrats are not real high on the
To-do list.
to-do list, I don't think. If it was white-tailed deer or turkeys or largemouth bass, somebody'd figure it out pretty quickly, so.
Sure.
But, it's interesting you were talking about raptors, and Justin and I were marsh trapping. It didn't happen this time, and we only had 2 check days. But the first time we marsh trapped on our fiberglass poles, we were using those Hags brackets as a swivel, not we weren't using it as a bracket when we were setting up on the huts. And I get to the stake, and the trap's not there. And I think, what the heck? So I find the trap laying a few feet away with a half-eaten muskrat in it, and a raptor had actually grabbed that muskrat, flew up with it, took the Hags bracket that was the swivel in this instance over the top of the fiberglass pole, fence post, and then, but he couldn't, weight-wise, maybe he couldn't carry the whole thing, and he ended up dropping it, but he evidently sat there and ate a good bit of that muskrat. So yeah, the raptor thing is huge. Just driving up here this morning, I saw 3 by home within a half a mile of each other. They're everywhere, and that's not to mention the big stuff like eagles and stuff that we never had. So
Plus, remember when they need the most food is in the spring when they have young.
Right.
So therefore, that's going to be the most detrimental to your muskrat population, because anytime they take out a lactating female, they're taking out a whole litter.
Right.
And maybe 2 more litters for later that year.
Right.
So, and I'm not saying it's the whole thing. Believe me, I know it's not, but I think it is part of the answer.
It's a good point. And the other thing is, if you think about retention ponds in a urban housing addition area, they probably don't have the number of raptors in that scenario that we do out here in the country.
That's true.
In the agricultural area.
That's true.
Generally true. Mm-hmm. So that's a good point.
Back to that real quick. With that raptor pulling that trap over the stake, we have since then put tape at the top.
Right.
We didn't have any tape then?
We didn't use tape on them. So
I find that hard to believe.
We were learning learning as we go, but
now that really probably can't happen.
Right. We put Gorilla tape on the top of our fiberglass rods so you can see them, and there wouldn't be any way to get that over the top of that pole now. So
because the bracket is made so it catches on the pole.
Well,
it's just over the diameter.
It could still slide up because there's a center hole that could be used as a swivel hole.
Right.
And that will actually slide up, but because of the tape on the top that we use as a flagging marker, they couldn't get it over the top of that tape. So, but anyways, so who your dad was a big influence on you as a trapper? Who did you look up to as a trapper? Like in Fur Fishing Game or Trapper and Predator Call, or did you have trapper in somebody that kind of stuck out?
Well, I did, and he happens to be sitting in this room.
When
I was a kid, I used to come down here and bring fur to you.
Right.
And then I would always talk to you about different things, and I was always amazed about all the things in here. And it's just a beautiful shop with all the things in here. And at that time, you had fur stacked in here. It was awesome. I used to love to come down here as a kid.
When was this?
This was in the mid-'80s.
Mid-'80s?
Yeah, we were.
I was not alive yet.
We were full bore at that time.
So yes,
yeah, with fur buying and whatever.
Lots
outside of that, did you have anybody else that you looked up to?
No, and that's the main reason that I didn't get started in the land trapping is because again it was discouraged extremely from my father. So I didn't really. The only one out there by us was Wint. Bob Wint was the only one who did any land trapping. And I mean, he did all around all the farmers. So, and I had no desire at that time. We didn't have hardly any coyotes, and the fox were good money, but I was making good money in the water, and it was something that I knew. So I was going ahead and doing that. We didn't have beaver yet,
Right.
so we had a lot of muskrats, coon, and mink, and we covered a lot of ground with those.
And there wasn't like today where there's YouTube and everything else that you can imagine to learn.
Sure. Well, and my father, he knew everyone. I mean, he was big in our country out there, so I had permission all over. I had more ground than I could trap just in the little creeks and streams. It kept us plenty busy.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it wasn't uncommon for us to catch. We would have 1,000 rats and 500 coon, and we went through a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But we never specifically targeted, like a lot of people would go out and specifically target mink. We never did. Now, we caught mink, but always in rat sets.
Right.
We never specifically targeted them.
And of course, no otters back then. So,
Right.
but of course, those weren't released until 1995. So, you always put up your fur?
No, when I was younger, we would skin it, but we never fleshed it and dried it.
I remember that.
Because we didn't have, the only reason we skinned it was for freezer space.
Right.
We didn't want to go buy another freezer just for fur, so we would skin it just because we didn't have enough room.
Right.
And man, it kept you busy because Dad would always take 2 weeks off of work at the beginning of coon hunting season, and then he would bring them home and pile them up, and we would get busy that night, and by the next day you had to be ready to go again.
Yeah.
But man, it was a fun 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It was a lot of great memories.
Yeah. And that was back in those days, that was the thing. Some people would take a seasonal layoff. Some people would take their vacation, and people still do, but it's not like it was then.
Right.
And hit it hard for the time that they had available, or a lot of trappers just trapped the entire season. They didn't just hit the 2 week window or whatever.
Right.
They set traps opening day and pulled them at the last day of season.
But at that time, you could make a lot of money trapping. It was
Right.
actually something you could make money at. But for me, I was just glad that I did make money at it, but it taught me a little more respect and to try and get better at it.
Right.
To at that time to be more profitable. But now it's in order to try and remove as many animals as possible.
Right.
So I really enjoy it. I can't thank my father enough. He's been gone over 2 years now, but I can't thank him enough to have instilled that in my mind.
Right. Well, I'm sure he's looking down on you thinking you're doing all right.
Oh, yeah. I talk to him a lot. If you were in my truck with me sometimes or along the ditch line, you would think, man, this guy's lost his mind. I talk to my father a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. So how long have you been doing the nuisance business?
We actually officially started full-time in 2013.
Okay.
But I have been doing it part-time since 1995. That's when my county actually hired me to start removing beaver. That's when we really started having beaver problems, was in 95.
Okay.
And we're still having plenty of those today. I stay busy with a lot of county jobs. But again, I try to put those off till the fall so we can at least then use the pelts.
Right.
Because if you take it outside of the regular season, you cannot sell the pelt.
Right. That's an Indiana law.
Correct.
And it also aligns with the primeness of the fur.
Of course.
It's not, it doesn't really have any value outside of the season anyways.
Right.
So,
Yeah, good luck selling a summer coon.
Good luck selling a winter coon.
yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty rough right now.
Yeah. Very good point.
Yeah. But we still catch a lot of coon. We do a lot of relocation now. That's always per customer request. But the relocation laws are kind of weird, and people don't understand this sometimes. For instance, if I'm at your house and you want the coon relocated, I have to relocate it within the county that you live in. I cannot cross county lines. And that's actually implemented to prevent disease. They don't want to spread disease from one county to the next. So it's not a bad idea. But still, I don't understand. I would think that it would be more of a circumference from the area that it was trapped. Because if you're only a quarter of a mile inside a county line, you can take it 12 miles one direction, but you can only take it a quarter of a mile the other direction.
Right.
So, I mean, it's kind of screwy. But then even like bats, we can't relocate bats to another county. They have to be within the county of capture. Even though they're flighted, I don't know how much difference that's going to make, but
Right. And you're not they're on bats, you're not allowed to euthanize them at all. Is that correct? Or
no, there are species. Now, there are species that are protected, but there are species that we can euthanize if we have to.
Okay.
The big browns are the most common, and they are not protected. But you have your little browns, which are, and then you have your Indiana bats. The Indiana bats are federally protected, but we don't euthanize any bats unless we absolutely have to. The only time we do is if you have a bat that's inside of a structure while someone is either inebriated, asleep, or a child. Then we will actually take that bat because you have to have it tested. You don't know if you're bitten. So you have to have it tested for rabies.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And they cannot test it without killing the animal.
Okay. Yeah.
which I never understood. If you can contact the disease by it biting you through the saliva contact, why can't we test it through that? But it's because it's such a weak virus that you can't test for that. They actually have to cut into the brain to test for it.
Interesting.
That's crazy.
And it's difficult to tell if you've been bit by a bat?
Yes, there's many times you don't know. Bats have very, very sharp teeth. If you've ever looked at the mouth of a bat, everyone thinks, oh, it's a flying mouse. No, I promise you, they have nothing in common with a mouse. If you look, they're a little mammal that has a ton of little carnivorous teeth, and they can bite you, and you will never know you have been bitten because they come in when you're asleep, obviously, and they'll crawl on you, and they will bite you whenever you're asleep. It's usually around your fingers or around your face.
Really? Interesting.
And you don't know you've been bitten. And a lot of times it's because you may roll over on him or you may move and pinch him in there. And as soon as you touch a bat, they want to bite. That's one of their first defenses because bats aren't very strong. They're just not physically strong. So the first thing they want to do is bite.
Interesting.
Wow.
But they're awesome animals. They're awesome.
So what won't you do as far as animal removal?
We don't do fleas and bed bugs.
Okay.
Now we do stinging insects. We get stung a lot. But we don't mind that. I mean, you get used to it. It's not that bad with the yellow jackets and the bald-faced hornets and such. But that's like bald-faced hornets. They're actually very good animals. They eat other insects.
Right.
So they're extremely carnivorous. Whenever you see the nests that are up in the trees that are the funky gray color, look like a basketball, that's what those are. They're bald-faced hornets. But they have a pretty cool little adaptation. They actually have a sentry that sits right at the entry. They only have one hole in and out.
Right.
And when you walk by, he will watch you, or she will watch you. And then if you get too close, she will go on the attack and come after you. It's pretty neat the way they do it. And then she will call the troops out, and they'll all come out after you. And they hurt.
I'll let you
You
fill me in on that
can
story.
You can deal with that.
I'm allergic to bees, and I don't know what.
Now, we normally don't. I try to discourage people from killing them unless we absolutely have to. But we do a lot of times around playgrounds, swing sets, that kind of stuff. Or if it's too close to the entrance to your house. But if it's just out away from your house, normally they're not going to cause a problem. It's usually little ground hornets, little yellow jackets. They're mean.
Yeah,
that
those
is
are the
a wicked
worst.
bee.
Yes,
That is
hurt.
Yeah.
And there's so many of them. They're one of the only bees that are considered to be dangerous in Indiana. They're actually a hornet because they come out in such vast numbers, and they'll hang out in any little cavity. They'll get right in there.
Yeah.
But like your bald-faced hornets, that nest is no good the next year. They only use it 1 year.
It normally falls apart.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, well, the wintertime will take it apart. And then they'll go climb into a structure or something, the females will, and wait until, or the egg-laying females will, and then they'll come out the next spring and they'll start a whole new colony.
yeah.
Same way with your paper wasps and all those. But your ground hornets don't. They will continue to come out the next year out of the same spot. They'll keep growing through there.
Right.
Same way with the carpenter bees. They're one of the few bees here in Indiana that live through the winter. The ones that make the holes in the wood.
Oh, yeah.
And then they'll go in. Those are the females will go in and they'll actually winter in there with some of their offspring.
So we have a problem with those bees, the carpenter bees, around here.
Oh yeah.
And then, which is a bad enough problem. And then we got this woodpecker. It's on our front porch up here. So he's in there trying to eat the larvae that they lay in those.
Oh, and destroying
tunnels.
the boards.
Yeah. So between the woodpecker and the bees, we're going to be replacing boards here shortly.
The 2x4 looks less than a 2x2 now.
They're amazing at how
great.
much they can clip out of there. And it's just mandibles. That's all they use. They just clip it out of there with that. And also the interesting part with those is only the females can sting you. The males don't even have a stinger.
Well, then they're typically not that aggressive anyways.
No, it's very rare. You almost have to grab a hold of a carpenter bee for them to sting you,
Yeah.
to get them in a pinch somewhere. Very rarely will you get stung. Now, those ground hornets we're talking about, they will get after you. They will sting you.
Those yellow jackets are terrible.
They hurt.
They're terrible.
They're evil.
We had invariably when we're getting ready for our 7B fur ticker event here, we'll find a nest of them or something when we're mowing. Just and they're more active. You see them more active in the fall, I guess.
It's because of more numbers. They've reproduced and reproduced, so there's actually more numbers in the nest.
So a guy was explaining to me and that who's at the Trappers College actually, and he said that they eat a lot of flies as one of their primary diets. And he said as the fly numbers go down in the fall, you see less flies, and that makes them actually more active as well. So I don't know if you agree with that or if that's so.
Then they'll change their diet. Like they'll eat the fruit bees. They'll come around and eat different fruits, or they'll get in your drinks, the sugary stuff, because then they're trying to store it for the winter.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, if I don't want to see anything exterminated, but I wouldn't mind seeing them hurt pretty bad.
Yeah, pretty much everything has its place except mosquitoes. I struggle with mosquitoes.
Well, they provide a lot of food for fish and the larvae and all. I mean,
They do, but I sure don't like them once they get out of there.
yeah, and bats eat them.
Yeah, bats too. They are part of their diet.
So.
We didn't know that until not all that long ago, by the way, when the technology came around where we actually checked the fecal material of the bats to say, yes, they do eat mosquitoes. Now, they don't eat huge numbers, and the little brown eats more than the big brown simply because of size. The big brown is so much larger than the little brown.
Proportionately, yeah.
Yes. It's just the same way when people talk about, oh, these don't kill a possum, they eat ticks. Well, they don't hunt ticks. They eat the ticks off of themselves. That's all they do.
Yeah, we've been through that several times on this podcast.
Yeah.
It's a ridiculous
But
statement.
it's kind of the
So, yeah.
same thing as to where the big browns will occasionally eat a mosquito, but they don't go out hunting the mosquitoes. As to where the little browns, they actually get right after those mosquitoes.
Yeah. So when you see them flying around your yard in the evening or whatever, they're a good thing to have
That's
around.
what they're doing.
So,
Absolutely. They're catching those bugs on the wing and eating them.
Yeah.
And they eat a lot of them.
Who was that said that at the Trappers College? I was trying to think because I recall
He
that
was
too.
actually worked at one of the zoos in Chicago.
That's right.
as the
Well, he was their
I
nuisance
don't.
guy.
Yeah, he was definitely did a lot of their nuisance animal control within the zoo, and then he I don't know if he did maintenance as well, but one of his main jobs was to keep the public from getting stung if there was a bee issue, or keeping raccoons away from endangered birds or whatever happened. Just which is a problem in zoos because the habitat's there for that they've made for those animals, and well, of course, wild animals like to live there too. So, anyways, it doesn't mix very well sometimes. So,
Oh, no. And then you would have all the rubbish from the people being there, and which attracts more, especially coon.
right.
They do call them trash pandas for a reason.
Right. So it was kind of an interesting scenario to think about this guy that did basically nuisance trapping within a zoo. It's a
Didn't he say something about shooting a coon out of the tree and it fell in the rhino pit and he had to get in
that
there?
was a different story, but yeah.
Pretty crazy.
You guys realize it, but a lot of people don't realize just how tough a coon is. They are very, very tough animals. They're like a little miniature grizzly bear.
Right.
I mean, they are tough. Mm-hmm. And you get one cornered somewhere, and they're normally not going to come and attack you, don't get me wrong. But if you get one pinned in a corner and it's you trying to get a hold of him, believe me when I tell you, they are tough little critters.
He may win.
They'll make you bleed in a hurry.
Well, in the German translation is that it's called a wash bear because they wash their food. So they call them a bear, and they have a lot of characteristics of a bear. What they eat and
Sure.
Their diet, and they lay up for weeks at a time in the winter, and whatever. They have a lot of similarities, but
That's another thing that a lot of people don't realize is they'll say, well, he has to be gone because I haven't seen him come in or out of my attic for 2 weeks. Well, it's not uncommon, as you guys know, but a lot of people don't realize that a coon will lay up there. That's why they put on all that fall fat so that then they can lay up there for weeks on end when the weather's bad and not have to come out.
right.
Pretty crazy.
So, what's the coolest nuisance job you had? And then we'll get back to fur trapping. But
I've really had a lot of them that I enjoy. The best part about it is I've met some really interesting people. I've met some people who are truly appreciative. I've met everything from people who are absolutely scared to death to people who are so mad they can't see straight. I've had people who say, I absolutely do not want the animal harmed. And I've had others say, I want to kill it myself.
Yeah.
So we get a little bit of everything. I had a young lady down the southern part of the state that called me, and I will openly admit that I had my doubts at first, but she said that she had a huge snake under her house. Huge is different in the eyes of everyone, right?
Sure.
I'm expecting to go down and find a little rat snake that's 3 or 4 feet long, or a black racer or something. Well, when I got in her crawl space, I found a shed that was over 8 feet long. So that got my attention, but it actually ended up being, he was about 9 feet long, or she was about 9 feet long, but it was a beautiful big rat snake. I'm a big snake kind of guy. I love them as well. They're great. And I knew once I saw it was just a rat snake, I said, well, it's not going to hurt you. She may bite you, but it's not like she's venomous. So that was pretty interesting. When you're in a
did
crawl
that
space.
comfort her?
Not really. We still end up having to take the snake out. But
Yeah.
when you're in a crawl space and you're literally on your belly and you're looking eye to eye with a snake that's about 9 feet long, a lot of people wouldn't be real comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that snakes don't bother me. So, and in Indiana, you can tell real easily if you can get the snake to look at you if it's venomous or not.
So, what's the easy way to tell?
All snakes in Indiana that are venomous are pit vipers, so they have the pit between their eye and their nostrils. If
Okay.
they don't have the pit, then it's not venomous.
Gotcha.
So as long as you can get it. But I know that's a little closer than a lot of people want to get to them. But like with this one, I didn't have a choice. We were plenty close. So
So
once I saw that.
did you just grab it with
Yeah.
gloves on and
Yep.
or bare hands?
Bare hand. We
Bare
just
hand,
grabbed a
just
hold
got
of
it
him.
out of there.
Yep. He was pretty mellow once we got him out of there. Or she.
Do you bit on that one?
Nope.
No.
And then I'm assuming you just released it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
it would be sinful to kill that snake. So.
Yeah, yeah. We've even we have a gentleman here on the south side that we've done it twice for him, where he has snappers that get in. He has a really small pond right behind his house, and he has snapping turtles that get in there. Well, he has a family of ducks that hatch off every year, a hen that hatches off little ones, and they just keep eating his ducks. So we have to go there every year and catch and relocate a snapping turtle for him.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how they get in there. It's back in a housing addition, and it's a little bitty pond, but every year we catch at least one snapper that's over 10 pounds.
Yeah.
And that's plenty big enough to eat the ducks.
I know they travel pretty. I mean,
Yeah, but
the
you
turtle.
wouldn't think here.
Yeah.
It's in a corner. There's fences on two sides of it, and then back in the corner, this little bitty lot. But they find a way.
I'll be darned.
And we always leave it a few days. You know, I say if you got another one, we'll go ahead and get it now. But we've caught two once, but normally we just get one.
Now, Charlie, would you get down there on your belly with that snake?
If I knew he wasn't poisonous, I would. Or
I don't believe you. He's trying to sound tough on the podcast.
well, I got to tell you. So our neighbor. I mean, we live out in the country, but we do have a neighbor. So there was one day that they had a big black snake in their basement, and he was scared to death of it. And so finally, he came over and said, "Hey, I got this snake. Can you help me out?" So I go over there, and Jake's a little hesitant, and I had leather gloves on or whatever, and it was funny because we walk down in his basement. We walk down the basement. He's got like an axe and a shovel. You know, and no exaggeration. He's got 3 or 4 pretty big garden type tools in there to take this snake. But he's, you know, military guy. So, anyways, he told me straight up, I can't stand snakes. So, anyways, it was he had that plate off that covers the working order of your water heater, and he had it laying on top of the water heater, and I could tell the snake was under that, and I just picked that up, and the thing had been pretty warm sitting on that water heater, and so as soon as he saw us, he just turned around and went right out the hole that he came in. Problem solved.
Charlie should get. You might do good in the nuisance
So
business.
that's my closest thing to. And so then he's like, "Well, I'll just fill the hole up, and we won't have a problem." So,
Well, like you were talking about with him, though, some people have true phobias of things, and they can't explain it. I mean, for instance, you would see someone who's scared to death of a mouse, and you would think, how can that be? It's a little bitty mouse. It can't hurt you.
and that's
yada,
pretty
yada.
common.
But that's right.
Very.
You would not believe how many people are, scared to death of things. And it could be spiders. It could be snakes. It could be anything. They just have some fear that's built into them. But I'm glad I don't have any certain animal that I have that for. It's beneficial to me, believe me.
now the claustrophobic side of the crawl space would probably bother me more than the skunk or
I'm
the snake.
I'm not big on tight crawl spaces, and I'm not a little guy, but we get through it. I'm okay. I just had to talk myself through it a few times.
Yeah.
But you're speaking of neighbors. We had neighbors about a mile north of us, and the young lady had a skunk problem. Well, her husband went and got a trap, and he set it in their crawl space, but he didn't tell me that he had caught the skunks in it, or skunk, as he said, and he wanted me to come up and get him out. Okay, but he didn't tell me that he had wedged this up in the ductwork to where there was no way to get this thing out of there without making a lot of noise, and that's not good, especially when I looked up there and I could see 4 eyes looking at me instead of just 2. So there were 2 half-grown skunks in here. So it took me about an hour and a half of very slow, very easy movement, but she can be my witness. We did get them out of there without them spraying.
Really,
Yes.
Have you-
I was shocked.
I saw a method. Guy used chloroform on skunks like that, and basically shoots them right in the face with the chloroform, and that way there calms them down considerably. And so
I
I don't
have
know.
to say that I don't know, Charlie. I've never tried it. I've never seen it done.
This guy was a nuisance guy too. Anyways, so you might consider that.
No,
Well,
you talking about Dan? Mm-hmm. You went to Trappers College. You probably
yeah, but
saw it.
that was the year after.
Was it?
Yeah.
Well, normally, though, with skunks, I just try to move slow around them and keep them calmed down. And I've only had one spray, and it was because there was someone there that already had him all fired up before we ever got there.
Yeah.
And we do a lot of skunks, but that's the only one that I've ever had spray.
Yeah.
Usually just slow and easy because they don't see very well. So normally when you have a lot of movement or a lot of sound, they don't like it. And if he raises his tail, you have nothing to fear. But when you can see the tip of his nose and the business end at the same time, when he makes that U shape, be prepared because he is sizing you up. You're getting ready to get blasted.
I mean, they're a relatively docile animal anyways.
Yes.
They're not.
Oh, they'll stomp their feet. They'll do a lot of things to try and warn you before they actually spray.
Yeah.
But they will even spray each other. They don't like it. Like whenever it's breeding season, you'll smell it a lot of times because the female will spray the males. They don't like it either.
Yeah.
My wife had a pet skunk for 7 years, and he would go out, and I brought some stuff home one time that had skunk spray on it. I was curious to see how he would react, and we laid it out in the yard, and he literally vomited when he got on it. He came out and started smelling it, and it physically made him sick.
Really?
Yes, sir.
Wonder if that's just because he was so far removed from the wild state. Because he was he was one of the color phases, right?
Correct. Yes.
That's interesting.
But he literally physically vomited.
Interesting.
But he had never had his sprayer. I mean, when he was little bitty, it had been removed.
Right. Right.
And he was a brown and white. Came from Iowa.
So did you guys like having the skunk?
My wife loved it. Now it actually caused me a lot of grief because now anytime I have the option to relocate a skunk, I have to. If not, I get to hear it whenever I get home. And it actually started because of a skunk. The lady's dog had killed a female and all the little ones, or so we thought. So I picked him up, and I mean, this is a little 2-ounce skunk. I said, there's no way that my wife's going to be able to get this thing to live. Well, it lasted 2 days, and then it was a week, and then it was 10 days. I thought, oh, my God, she's going to get this thing to live. And she loved him. She fell in love with him. So I said, well, I'll just call and get her a permit. Well, the state of Indiana will not issue you a permit for a wild skunk.
Right.
So we had to take it to the rehabilitator, and my wife cried the whole way there and the whole way back. She was very upset. His name was Forrest Stunk, but he did make it to be rehabbed and released to the wild, so that's why we went ahead and got her one, and that was Boo Boo. She kept him in the house, and she loved that skunk.
And they got a litter box in the whole thing, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And they love peppers. That's one of their favorite foods. He
Really?
absolutely loved peppers. Jalapeno, banana, he didn't care. Peppers were
Hot
one of his
pepper
favorite things.
or
Hot peppers, he
or
didn't care.
sweet.
And another one that he really liked is cottage cheese. Man, he would eat a whole pint of cottage cheese. Those were
That's
two of his
hilarious.
favorite things.
Well, he's eating a relatively healthy diet.
Yeah, yeah. But believe it or not, I use it a lot now. I catch a lot of skunks with cottage cheese simply because there's not many animals that are attracted to it. But skunks love it. There is something about it. And again, I don't know what it is, but they sure do like it.
Interesting.
It works.
So it's got isolating effect as a bait.
Yeah, and we need that, as you know. That's why a lot of times I come down here and I get baits off of you because I need things that are very specific. Because if not, you're going to catch feral cats no matter where you go.
Right.
There are a lot of feral cats.
So what's your thoughts on the male raccoon gland stuff to get, say, you got raccoon down in a mother raccoon with young in a chimney, for instance, and you put that. Does that stuff work for you, or?
Well, actually, what I use is I'll use coyote urine is what I use, and it'll work probably 75% of the time. But sometimes you're just going to have an old persistent female that is not coming out. She will not bring them out of there, and it's not going to be instantaneous. So you're not going to put it on there and then they're going to come running out. Usually, you have to give them 24 hours and then come back and they will have moved them because they'll move them one at a time, carry them out. But I have had it work. I mean, just like you would not believe, and I've had other times where they just won't move them.
Yeah. Interesting. There's I guess they sell a eviction type thing.
They do. It's actually called eviction.
Yeah, based on male raccoon.
Because the male
glands.
will kill the little ones to bring the female back in heat is what they try and do.
Oh, okay.
But
okay.
they will kill them. But that's not uncommon in the animal world
Right. Exactly.
within the same species.
Are you allowed to talk about your deer reduction deal?
I don't know why we wouldn't be able to. It's actually called the CHAP program. I would like everyone to look it up. It's Community Hunting Access Program. It is a wonderful idea that the DNR has come up with, and it gets a lot of people the ability to get permission to go hunt because most people, that's where you struggle, is trying to find a good place to go hunt. Well, then with me being the coordinator, I get to bring you out, make sure you sign all your paperwork, go through your proficiency test, make sure that you're safe. Then you actually get to go out and hunt on private land that someone has agreed for me to be able to bring people in to hunt because there's an overpopulation of deer.
And that's normally in community setting or that's a little.
It can be, but now also like Central Indiana Land Trust is we do. They have a couple of them here in the state because they want to keep everything as natural as possible. And deer browse terribly; they will destroy a lot of things, especially when they're trying to grow young trees. So they will actually have the same thing. They'll have the chap come in, and then we will hunt that.
Okay.
They do. There are some with gun, bow. There's everything, but the ones that we do are archery.
Okay.
That includes crossbow, longbow. Just about anything.
Okay.
As long as legal archery equipment.
And they're proficient with it.
You must be proficient. You must pass a proficiency test, yes.
Yeah.
And then you have to sign in and out each day. And I mean, there's a little bit to it, but if you really want to put some meat in the freezer, it's great. Because, for instance, the one we're doing in Brown County, that's 10 bonus antlerless deer that you can put in your freezer. And you can earn a buck. So if you kill a doe, and then you can kill another buck, a bonus buck.
Okay. Within that program.
Correct.
That's pretty cool. So how long was the state done that, or do you know?
This is the second year.
Okay.
And I'm telling you, I think it's great. The DNR is someone that they are so often overlooked and underappreciated. It's unbelievable the things they do.
I will completely agree with you on
100%.
The DNR gets it from all sides, and as I mentioned at the Bobcat hearing, the only animal, in this case a bird, that's ever lost a season in Indiana is the ruffed grouse. We don't have a season on ruffed grouse anymore. We've gained a number of seasons, over the years, and them pulling that ruffed grouse season was basically, obviously, to protect the remaining ones that are here, but that was based on losing the ability to clear cut in Hoosier National Forest, which was their primary range or home, and as soon as they quit clear cutting, there was no edge or anything that would provide a home for them, and anyways, that's the only thing that they've pulled the season on, as to no fault of theirs, and also their oversight. I mean, not oversight, but they're looking at that and like, well, we need to protect what's left.
So foresight.
Yeah, foresight. But they're but yeah, there's it doesn't matter if it's the deer biologist or whatever. They're all getting dogged on by a lot of people, and they got a tough job as far as keeping everybody happy, but they also do a great job.
You just don't realize what it takes. They don't just throw numbers out there.
No.
I mean, they go through some intense studies to figure out exactly what the harvest rate should be, or what species should be protected, or what type of seasons there are. I mean, they go through an amazing amount of things to try and make sure that that's accurate.
Right. Yeah. And that's not just, we got a lot of people who listen to this outside of Indiana. We've got way more people actually that listen to it outside of Indiana. But this is in any state. It's not just Indiana.
Absolutely.
We all have departments of Fish and Game or Department of Natural Resources, whatever your state may call them. And some, we're not going to get into the politics of it, but them doing their job as biologists and that, monitoring what's going on, they do a good job with that, So they do have the political side, and like I said, we're not going to get into that. But yeah, they do a great job. So
there's a lot of, I don't know where it comes from, but there's just a lot of BS around it too.
Oh yeah.
The guys that come in here the reason my deer population haven't been able to kill a deer the past few years is because the DNR turned coyotes loose 10 years ago, and now look at them. Dude, I promise you, they did not turn coyotes loose in Indiana.
Well,
they showed up here.
One the other day, guy was complaining about the DNR turning wolves loose to get the turkeys under control. That was a new one. Hadn't heard that one for a while.
Oh yeah, I've heard a bunch.
And
it's crazy.
Bobcats all just migrated in. They came in. They were never released by the DNR. Of course, the DNR has been doing studies on them for a long time, but they have never released by the state.
Right, but it's just like we were talking about. They're doing studies because they want to offer the season. They want to understand the animal. They don't just come in and jump the gun and say, well, we need to kill them all.
Right.
But I think that is part of the problem you're talking about from what you hear from people, is because you have people from such extremes, one or the other. There are people who want to kill every single deer they see. For instance, if you have someone who sees a single deer in their backyard, that's too many. They want it killed.
Right.
And you have other people, if they have 50 deer in their backyard, they want 60 deer in their backyard.
Right.
So it's just trying to find that middle ground. And the DNR understands that because they've dealt with it for so many years.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And they're very good at it.
For years and years. Years. And you, I don't know if you remember this or not, Rusty. When the state started the proposal of having the deer hunts within the state parks, it was, oh my gosh, the protests and the public hearings and the outcry. They had support too, but the general public outcry, or a small percentage of the public, but they were very vocal. You know, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and it's crazy. And we had the first hunt. I remember very, very well. It was on a very rainy weekend at Brown County State Park, and they had protesters out there, and they went in and they didn't kill as many deer. And this has been a long time ago. They didn't kill as many deer as they wanted to because the weather was so bad that weekend. And I think my memory is correct on all this, but I do specifically remember they went to the processor that agreed to take all the deer, and because all of them were going to be donated that first hunt. It was just trying to get this hunt started. So they went to the processor, and he's showing how malnourished these deer were because they had eaten that park. It was like devastated. Oh, seriously overgrazed. You know, they talk about overgrazed land. It was very overgrazed. They had an area that actually they fenced off, high fence that the deer couldn't get to show the difference between no deer and deer, and it was huge. So anyways, he showed how malnourished those deer, 30-40% malnourished, underweight, stunted growth. And basically after that hunt, after that news report, from then on there was really no public sentiment against these hunts. People seemed to think the need. So the next year when it rolled around, there might have been some protests. If there was, it was very, very little. The third year after that, it was basically non-existent. Now we have state park hunts every year, and you never hear anything about it. Period.
Correct.
They just go in, do the job, get the deer under control, and go on. So,
Well, a lot of people don't realize just how great of a renewable resource the deer are.
Right.
Because once that doe reaches maturity, she's going to give you at least twins, if not triplets, every single year.
Right.
So therefore, if you have 2 mature does in an area, then this year that number becomes 8.
right. And then that number jumps again next year, even if they only have twins. So now you've turned it into 24. So you've taken 2 deer in 2 years and turned them into 24. As to where if you can have someone come in and harvest some of those deer, they're going to be replaced. Right.
There are going to be more deer put down. And you cannot come into an area and kill all the deer. It's just impossible. They are too good at surviving. And even if you lower the numbers enough, they're going to be deer move in from surrounding areas, especially Brown County, very high deer population. I mean, you can drive down the roads at any time and just count lots and lots and lots of deer.
Right.
So that's why we were really happy to get in down there. And we actually, last year, we donated 19 of those deer right back to the community. The actual community we hunted them out of, because there were some people there who either A, did not want to hunt, or B, weren't physically able to hunt. So there was also some people who worked there, and the hours were 8 to 2, so they didn't have time to hunt. It was only during working hours. So we actually processed some deer and donated back to them as well.
Okay, that's cool.
As of right now, all of the deer that I have been the coordinator for, none of them have gone to waste. Every single deer has been consumed.
Yeah.
And that's awesome.
And your scenario of the population growth dynamic applies to everything.
Absolutely.
You know, so which is why we have a Department of Natural Resources to manage.
And they understand that.
Right.
That's not they try not to play with emotion, because so many people say, "Oh, it's such a beautiful animal," and I respect deer more than anyone you know. However, they have to be harvested. If not, man, things get really out of control. So why not take that renewable resource and feed people with it?
Right. But there's a certain segment of society that doesn't even like the word renewable resource because they feel like it takes the doesn't apply to a living thing. Because coal is is a non-renewable. So you know what I mean. Anyways,
I see what you mean. Yeah, I see.
A tree's a renewable, but a raccoon's not a renewable. It's a raccoon.
Okay.
But it's things have become so.
Well, everyone's just so disconnected from our roots.
Right.
Well, that's one of the reasons that I have my job is, you know how many people call me to come and euthanize an animal for them or to get it out of their attic because they simply cannot do it. And I'm okay with that. Hey, look, if you don't want to get it out of your attic, I'm fine with that. I will come. We will get it out. We will make sure it cannot get back in. We warranty everything. We will make you happy. We'll do our very best to make you happy. But sometimes that you have to make that decision. Do you want it relocated or do you want it euthanized?
Right.
That's still an option. They tried to get it to where that was not an option. Anything that was removed had to be euthanized if it were the coyote, the possum or the coon. They tried to get it passed where you could not relocate them; they had to be euthanized, but they didn't. So it's still the customer's option.
Right.
What do you want done?
Right.
And I have a lot of them say, I don't care, whatever you want, just get it out of here.
Yeah, I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
And that's fine. I'll give you as much or as little information as you want.
Right. But I always kind of look at it personally. It's pretty irresponsible to turn someone else's problem into their problem into someone else's problem. So.
I always try to explain that to people, especially if you get an animal that's accustomed to living in an attic, there's a pretty good chance that they're going to try to get into another attic.
Yeah.
Regardless if that's a squirrel, if that is a chipmunk, if that is a coon. I've even caught possums out of attics. Not common, but they will occasionally get into attics.
And I think there's this dynamic, too, when you go turn animals loose in an area where there's already inhabited by those animals probably don't stick around.
You're going to have about a 60% death rate.
Yeah.
Because they're only going to have about 40% survive. Because remember, you're taking that animal, you're putting them into someplace brand new. They don't know where to eat. They don't know where the shelter is at. They're going to struggle to find water, and then they're going to run into other animals of the same species who are going to fight.
This is our turf.
This is mine. That's right. And especially like with coon, because without there being a fur market, there are so many raccoons. We harvested, removed, whatever you want to call it, but we actually handled over 300 coon last year. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of coon.
As a nuisance.
Yeah. As a nuisance, yes. Now, that's not counting any fur trapping in that. That's just nuisance coon.
Right.
And most of those were either under decks or in attics.
Yeah.
Or pole barns. Sometimes they get in there and make a mess because they do make a mess.
You told me last week, what was the most coons you pulled out of like an apartment or something?
21.
21 in one apartment complex.
21 out of
I'd
one
say
building.
They were infested.
Out of one building, yes.
Health hazard issue in addition to just being a plain nuisance.
Yes.
Tearing stuff up.
Yes. And man, coon are very, very good at tearing things up. They can get into almost anything. I mean, they are good at it, and they're very strong. To be no bigger than they are, they're extremely strong.
What gets me is how much damage they can do while they're inside a cage trap.
Anything they can reach,
and it's all going to be pulled into the trap.
Yes,
or
it is.
Whatever. So.
Yes, that's why. And I'm not here to give a shout out to anyone in particular, but I will this one. Tomahawk Live Trap does a fantastic job. They actually make them with small enough checks in them to where that they cannot get their claws out through it, so they won't tear anything up. They can't get out to anything, because it was a problem for us. They would tear up shingles. If you catch them up on a roof where the hole where they're going in and out, man, they would just destroy the shingles around it. Mm-hmm. So they came up with the idea up there that, hey, we can just cut this down a little bit, and they've done a very nice job.
Took care of the problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they're Pro Series, they call it. They're really, really strong traps. They're not gravity. They are actually spring-loaded, so that you can knock it off the roof. I've literally had them thrown from the roof, and the coon still can't get out.
Yeah.
They're very good, and they have good covers on them. I mean, it's humane removal. They're a very good trap.
Well, there you go, guys.
Yeah, I'm not a cage trapper.
Testimonial to Tomahawk traps.
Yeah, but sometimes you have to.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I have to use them.
Right,
for sure.
So, getting back to fur trapping.
Yes,
so you've played around a little bit with land trapping.
Yes, sir.
Do you feel like you're getting there?
Yes, only because I do have to do some nuisance stuff with that as well. But I started with my own house because we had coyotes that were coming in and killing the chickens. So that's how we started. But yeah, I'm getting it a little bit. It still makes me a little bit uneasy just because of where they're at. It's so accessible to everything. And remember, everything that we did as kids, we didn't use any kind of scent. Everything that we used was either body grip in a run or over the den, or we used footholds in feed beds. That's the way we caught them. Right. And my dad, he showed me a long time ago, you can take a good feed bed and catch 30 rats out of a place, as to where one den is probably only going to produce 2 or 3 rats. So the steel trap or the foothold is much more efficient for the muskrats. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of the same way with snares, in my opinion, versus the footholds. Mm-hmm. Man, if you can get in an area where they're there, those footholds will just keep knocking them out, because they'll just keep coming to visit it. And I watched your CDs on that with your different shows as to how that you will actually remake it, and then you will have a number of times you'll just keep catching animals out of the exact same set, which just amazes me.
Yeah. Well, you can run into problems on that too, but yeah, we do. So
yes.
That's, I think, related to the personality of the coyote in terms of whether they're going to feel comfortable coming into that remake set or or avoiding it and then picking him up in another set nearby, because that catch circle is still a great attraction.
Oh, yeah.
Whether they want to fully commit to the set that's within that catch circle or the set that may not be have caught anything but next door, so.
And believe me, you guys are two of the best land trappers that I know, but I think that it is a good attractant because it's a visual attractant and it still has the smell of that animal. So it's a double attractant, in my opinion, for them.
Right. Any disturbance visually is
Right.
an attraction. And then, of course, it's overload. It's sensory overload in terms of smell. So, yeah.
Yeah, but you guys catch a lot of stuff each year. I mean, you guys catch stuff all other states. You catch it everywhere.
Well,
I wish we had more time to do more.
yeah, our problem is finding the time to do it.
Yeah, because you guys are too good at what you do. That's why you're so busy here.
Yeah, Charlie, let's drop taxidermy. We're done. It's trap only. I'm done with taxidermy.
I have a sneaking suspicion that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Probably not going to
Yep.
happen. So when you were, did you ever deal with Bob Ferris?
I did. I did a little bit again as a kid. With him, and then Earl also was the fella out there, and Earl would skin you if you didn't watch him. So
He was a dandy.
yeah,
He was a dandy.
he was a little different. I always had a little better luck dealing with Bob.
Yeah. Is Earl still around, or do you know?
I don't think so. I don't
think he's buying anymore.
No, he hasn't bought for several years, but
I don't even know if he's still living.
I don't know. I haven't been over there in that neighborhood for a long time.
Yeah. Now Bob I guess is still living.
Yeah.
And a guy was in here the other day, and he said he'd stopped to see him just like 2 weeks ago, and he's 90, and he's still hanging in there, still doing all right.
That man went through a lot of fur too.
Oh my gosh, we're
Yes.
talking about Bob Ferris, Central Indiana, big time buyer back
Yes.
in 70s, 80s, and prior to that, huge amount of fur went through that place. He traveled the country, Midwest, whatever. You can ask. Well, of course, they're all disappearing now. But any old time fur buyer in the fur industry knew Bob Ferris, knew who he was, and so yeah, he was well connected.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, you guys would put up thousands of fur back when they weren't that common. When coon prices were up high, it wasn't common to find someone who had 1,000 coon. You just didn't see them because they were worth so much then. A $25 coon back in the early 80s was awful good money.
Oh, yeah.
You go out in the night and kill 10 coon,
Right.
if you're really going to get after them. So that was good money for people.
Right. Yeah. This coon population we have right now would fill the fur market up, with very quickly.
Yeah, about a week.
Yeah, because we didn't have this kind of population back then. But boy, guys beat the bushes for them. They found them.
Yes,
if
sir.
they were out there, they found them. And the thing is, they and I may be off on the numbers, but I think it was about 250,000 raccoon were killed in a season in Indiana, and that was pretty much year in, year out. It just pretty much maintained at that number. It never really fluctuated that much. It was very sustainable, actually. So it was a perfect harvest scenario to maintain the breeding pairs and then take the cream off every year, and it worked out perfect. But
What did they do with the coon pelts? What was the most common use for those?
I think back then it was a lot of trim and actual coats and whatever. Now you'd always heard of the term coat coon, and that would be more of a southern raccoon because it was less not as heavy a furred, but on a garment they would be not as heavy to wear as well. So that's kind of where that terminology came from. But our coons up here, I think probably a lot of them were used for trim or whatever.
It just amazed me that they could go through that many coon and still need them.
Right.
Now, I know a few years ago wasn't the Koreans that were buying the muskrats when the price went up here just a few years ago for those?
Yeah, and the Chinese still buy a lot of them present day.
And what do they do with those?
I'm not sure specifically what they do with them. Probably a lot of liners, and there may be some exterior use on those. I know, actually, I thought on one of Groenewald's recent tapes, or on Facebook, one of their videos that they put up, not tape, video.
You guys are
show my age.
Well, you said tape, and Rusty said CD earlier. You guys are old,
I'm
man.
sorry, DVD.
Yeah.
Hey,
And even that's outdated now, right?
I stream the web. I'm a streamer.
Anyways, they were talking about they can sell the bellies off of a muskrat. The bellies are much more desirable in China than the back. So they actually are skinned and cut. Now the belly goes, what they consider part of the belly actually goes up on the sides of the back. They were explaining this on one of their instructionals, which I thought was pretty interesting. So no problem selling the bellies, but the backs are tough to sell on a muskrat.
Well, if you ever notice on a muskrat, the belly is much, much softer than it is on the back. They have all the big guard hairs and such on the back.
Just like a beaver.
Yes.
So I thought that was interesting. Here you got a really small skin, and they're using like 2/3 of it, and then 1/3 of it they're trying to find a market for. But that is kind of the tough spot right now. So
which is normally backward. Normally they use the back of the pelt is what they use, like for your other animals, with the exception of like the bobcats. Don't they? They like the
they like the bellies, but nowadays everything is used except for like the ears and above to the nose. That's not used so much, but everything is used. So this idea that if you get damage on the belly, it's like, oh well, they don't use that anyways. Yeah, they do. Nothing's wasted. So it's very important that skin be complete. So. Anyways, so then you started putting up fur.
Yes, sir.
Mainly by default need.
Yes, I did.
So you could ship to the auction or whatever.
Right, because I wanted to send it up to NAFA, and I enjoy messing with the fur anyway. I've always enjoyed trying to learn new things. And by the way, you would be proud. Just yesterday, I got the 2 14-year-old boys come out. They're learning. They're doing a little skinning, and they're going to come back out this weekend, and they're going to try to do a little fleshing. So we're going to do a little bit of that. And anyone who's never done it should try it. Give you a little bit of appreciation.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it kind of goes full circle that way. So,
Absolutely.
And there's guys that I get it. They don't have the time to put up their fur. They don't have this place to put their fur up. And some just don't have the desire to even do that or learn that, and that's okay. But it when I was a kid and putting up trapping, it was expected that you learn to put it up. So it was the whole scenario. Start essentially to finish, and then you had a finished product. So
yeah.
Well, because then you had something that's much, much easier to sell, and it's much more valuable than to sell it green.
Right.
Because if you sell it fleshed and dried, then they can see all the imperfections. Then you're really selling the pelt itself. But it also gave me an appreciation when I'm harvesting that animal. Like, for instance, there were a lot of coon the last few years that I would just turn the coon loose. If I've got a coon and he's just paw caught and I can see that it's a small coon or it's one of those really ugly coon, I just turn him loose.
Yeah.
Because I knew that pelt wasn't going to be anything.
Right.
And there was no need to waste, because then my father would have been in my ear again. So... But he was very good about that.
Yeah, yeah, and of course, now things have changed since NAFA is out of the picture, and but still putting up fur is important. It does give you the a little more marketing of upper hand, if you even have one right now, the way the market is. But at least you don't have to sell the day you thaw out.
Right.
And, you have a lot more flexibility in that regard. And you can still ship to fur harvesters or whatever if you don't like the price you're being offered. So.
Well, plus if you get one that you really like, or if you have one that means something to you, you can dry it and then you can send it and have it tanned.
Exactly.
That's where you can't do that if it's green. You have to have it dried. So I have a lot of people who have asked me for some tanned hides. They want to see, for instance, the guys who helped me last night, they both want to take a beaver that they skinned, and then they want to try and flesh it, and then they want to send it out and have it tanned.
So are these young guys trappers too?
Yeah, they caught eight coon this year and 1 fox.
Cool.
So they are coming along. They did try
good.
a little bit of water trapping. They did it with their uncle, who showed them a little bit, and then he kind of let them do it. So it's great. I love it. I will help them any way that I can.
Yeah, that's
what we need.
We need all that.
Yeah.
we need all that.
Especially for trappers, but even outdoor industry altogether,
Right.
no matter what it is.
Right. The numbers are declining across the board,
sir.
whatever the outdoor activity is. So
Yes, sir.
one thing, and we've talked about it before on this podcast, but this R3 program actually identifies that there's a lot of adults that didn't grow up with this, didn't have a relative or a friend that did any of these outdoor activities, and maybe they even lived in an urban setting and really wasn't on their radar when they were young, but as they get older, they watch a show or they've seen the things and they were interested. So that there's this gap too with a number of adults that don't really know where to get started as well. So
It's true.
That's kind of why we started our summit that we do hold in the summer. It was more geared towards adults than a youth. And I'm not saying to do away with youth. We need to maintain that. That's very, very important.
Definitely.
But there's another area that's probably overlooked even more. Are adults that are interested but really just are overwhelmed and don't know how to start.
And that's like this chat program I'm talking about, that's the great thing about this. You don't have to have the property that you go hunt. You don't have to go scout it. You don't have to go set a stand up. You don't have to do any of that. I'll do all of that for you.
Right.
All you have to do is be willing to come out and be proficient enough to make sure that you can double lung that animal.
Right.
If you can come out and do that, I will take care of the rest of it. You just come out, have some fun. Now, I even drag them out for you. I will remove the deer. We bring it out. We disembowel them there. We do everything for you. So just come out, have some fun, put some meat in the freezer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
yeah.
learn.
You can't ask for much more than that.
Yeah.
Right there.
I'm hoping that other states have something that's similar to this. I really don't know if this program is nationwide, but it may have a different name, of course. But if there's anyone listening to this out there, take a look, see if your state offers it. It is a great opportunity.
Right.
Community Hunting Access Program is what it's called here.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's a great.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So
That's crazy.
the Yeah, well, I was just talking. These guys watch. There's so much media out there available, whether it's on YouTube or Netflix or whatever, hunting and trapping and all of these outdoor interests that I think it's increased. Even though the numbers are declining, we've got another group of people out there that are interested, but just don't know how to start. So whether it be squirrel hunting or deer hunting or trapping or pheasant hunting or whatever, so all that's very important. So
Yes.
and that's a good perspective on that chat program. So yeah.
I agree. Well, and another audience that has really stepped in lately are women. There's a lot more women getting. That's where your crossbows have really taken off, because it's a lot easier to learn how to shoot a crossbow, but you can still go out and archery hunt. So you can start early in the year. It's not cold. You can go out and relax, have a little bit of fun with the kids and the missus. So a lot of people have really picked up on that.
Right. And I think part of that's just culturally. Women don't have the stereotype on them that they did maybe in my generation, where they're expected not to necessarily do outdoor activities. They're expected to do more, what at the time was thought that women should be doing, cooking.
Absolutely.
So I think a lot of that is probably helped that people have become more open-minded about it.
Well, there's a couple that I hope that they're listening to this, because he and his wife both came out to the chat program this year, and she had never killed a deer. Now she is an archer. She actually shoots a compound bow, and so does he. And she did get to kill her first deer this year, and her second. And he only got to kill one, and he killed it after hers, and she killed the only buck. So he has really been taking it rough this year.
I would imagine so, yeah.
So I love that. If that's what it takes for husband and wife to get out and have a challenge, have a little bit of fun. I mean, they were ribbing each other every day and really made a lot of fun out of it.
Yeah.
And it worked out great.
Yeah.
It did. It was awesome.
It always helps to have success. And,
Absolutely.
And she's got one up on him, or two. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. She had two up on him.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes, she did a nice job. Yes.
I'm trying to think here. There's something I was going to ask you. Oh, yeah, we kind of ran away from it. I was going to ask you your experience with the Trappers College, how much you enjoyed it, what you like about it, what you didn't like about it, or...
I think that the Trappers College is incredible. I think it's awesome. There's so much knowledge there, and the thing about trapping is you can see all the videos you want. You can stream it if you want, whatever you new kids want to do, however you want to view it. But there is no substitute for experience. There's just nothing like it. So I encourage everyone to get out there and try it. The Trappers College, I don't think it's, and Charlie explained this to me, but I don't think it's for someone who's just learning how to trap. But once you get the basics down, you can go to the Trapper College and really excel your learning curve.
Oh, yeah.
Just because there's so much knowledge there. And you can kind of pick what you want. You want to learn more about water trapping. You want to learn more about coyotes. You want to learn more about anything up there. And there's a ton of knowledge there. And they're very, very willing to explain it to you. And it is a very intense week. Lots of hours.
Yeah, it is a lot of hours. Yeah, and I completely agree. If you have a baseline of experience or knowledge, you will be able to grasp that week even better. Now, there's a lot of people that do go there, agency people or whatever, or people that are just interested in trapping that have never set a trap. I mean, there's some that we literally have to show them how to set a trap. But and then by the end of the week, they're probably pretty confused, but they also got a little bit of an idea of how it works. So, but yeah, the idea of having some sort of baseline before you get there will help you considerably. So, and with trapping DVDs, with guys come in and they, for instance, buy our coyote DVD and they've never trapped before at all, and I said, go home and watch it. or whatever. And some of them will say they watch it more than once. But I said, and then once you go out and you've been out for a week or two, watch it again, because then
Things will click.
It will click. It will make a
see
lot
things you
more
never
sense.
saw before.
Yeah, it will make a lot more sense to you than just watching it one time and then not. So it's very important to revisit that. But having that baseline. So yeah, if you have a baseline and you go to Trappers College, you'll garner even more.
Absolutely.
So, and if you're a beginner, no problem with going there. But
Yes. Yes, there was a young lady with the agency when I was up there who had never been a part of any of that, and man, it just blew her mind. But she understands a lot more now than she did before.
Right.
She really has a grasp that you can't get any other way.
Right. It's pretty cool. We had 3 women. I help with the beginner class, which is a lot of fun because when they catch their first coon, it's like, oh
yes,
it's crazy. So, anyways, there was 3 women that have been in and either ordered or been in the shop and bought supplies, and they're all out, and they're all out trapping on their own. One of them was not, but 2 of them are agency people. So they're actually trapping as part of the recreational activity for the winter, so which is pretty cool.
Absolutely.
So, because without the college, probably wouldn't have seen that.
No.
So,
a lot of times I think people are afraid to ask questions, or they're a little intimidated because maybe it's someone who knows quite a bit and they just don't want to ask the questions, or afraid they're going to belittle them some.
Right.
When you go up there, it's not that way. No. Because I will guarantee you there is someone there at your skill level. No matter what your skill level is, if you are a true beginner or if you are an incredible trapper, there's someone there at your skill level, and there's someone with the same questions that you have. So you get a lot of that out whenever you're up there.
Right.
It was a great experience. I absolutely loved it.
The way it works is you got 5 levels of classes, so it goes incrementally up to whatever your experience level is. So 5 being the most experienced. Gary Jepson teaches that class, So yeah, I mean, they can meet your need to whatever your level of experience or expertise is, or lack of knowledge. So yeah, for sure.
I agree, 100%. It's a great place.
Even though you had to put up with Robert Colonna.
I can still ask Robert a few questions. I'd love for Robert to come down. By the way, Robert, if you're listening to this, I'd love for you to come down and do a little beaver trapping.
Did you tune into the episode we did with Robert?
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's a good man. He's good,
Ron
full of
Lega.
knowledge.
And Ron Lega was who he was at the college up until maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and then he retired. But anyways,
Mr. Colonna, I would say, has probably caught more animals than maybe anyone else. As far as, think of the species that he's caught and the numbers.
It's amazing.
He's phenomenal.
Yeah, amazing.
Phenomenal. And some of the things he was talking about, I was amazed.
Yeah.
At just sheer numbers.
Yeah. We're going out and doing the nutria eradication in the Chesapeake Bay. I mean, the Chesapeake Bay is not just a small pond.
Yeah.
So, and to eradicate the nutria, and they think they've got it accomplished.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
That's astonishing.
Yeah.
And all the fox work he does up and down the East Coast.
Right. Protecting endangered species, whether it be birds primarily.
Right.
But, so.
Again, people don't think about that. I hadn't really given it much thought until I started talking to him. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Some of the practical applications that trapping has.
Right.
Everywhere.
Right.
And even from the nuisance point, like I'm talking about. Relocate, euthanize, whatever they want, but they're a nuisance. They get to where they're a problem. And I think that comes back to the fur market, the lack of fur market, so there's no one keeping those numbers in check. Like you're talking about when we harvest 250,000 a year, you don't have a problem with the population
we didn't
explosion.
need nuisance trappers back then.
How many were harvested in Indiana last year?
I don't know.
It will be a very small number. So therefore, they just keep increasing in numbers.
Right.
More and more and more.
And that's something that generally, the general public doesn't even think about, probably don't even care, but they just.
And it's hard to believe the term trash panda came up earlier, but think about how many dumpsters there are in the state of Indiana. And there aren't many dumpsters that don't get visited by coon.
We had 2 coons in our dumpster this year that couldn't get out.
Yeah, they
last
get down
summer,
and can't get out.
They couldn't get out. So
I get that call quite a bit.
Yeah, had to put a board in there, and then they,
people are scared to death that something bad's going to happen. It's usually the kittens when they've just gotten big enough to get out, and then they'll get caught in there.
We had one that he just plain didn't want to get out, so he had to take the catch pole. I had to get a catch pole and get a hold of him and. Get him out of there.
Yeah, we get that call a little bit, and they're normally not too happy when they're trying to get out of there.
No.
So,
Well, Rusty, we appreciate you being on.
yes, sir. I certainly appreciate it.
I learned some stuff.
Yeah. Me too.
Well, that's saying something for you guys.
I'm surprised learning
too.
something from you.
Hey,
And we did pay Rusty to suck up to us on this one.
Rusty's a good friend, so
Yeah.
we pick at each other a little bit.
And
So
I mean, most of the people on the podcast I've known for a long time, but I've known you since probably
81.
81.
Yeah.
So I'm a little older than you, but it's been a long,
Yes, sir.
around a long time. So,
Yes, sir. But anyone listening who has never been down here, you need to come to Hoosier Trapper Supply and just look around. I know you can get online and get all the great stuff that they have, but to come down here and look around is a whole other thing.
And
So
sorry
if you
about
haven't
you-
been here, you need to.
And if you're traveling through, stop by. We're usually here year round. So, or we are here year round. So, so if you're driving from Washington State and you want to stop by. So
Yes,
glad to
sir.
see you. Talk
Well,
trapping. So
Thank you, gentlemen, for having me on. And I remember 75% of the time I enjoy my job. So if you ever need something, you call me.
well, we appreciate it, Rusty.
All right. Thank you, fellas.
Thank you.